respected chair of the session, Dr. Mamageshwaran, all my expert co-panelists on the dais, and off the dais, august audience of today's program. Very good evening to all of you. Already, session chair has given a brief highlight about the human space program, so my task has been very much simplified. As we are all aware, from yesterday and today, we have been hearing about the capabilities of the Indian space program in general, about the capability of building the launch vehicle, designing, building, realizing, integrating, and testing and launching of the launch vehicle. Many kinds of launch vehicle, like polar satellite, geo-satellite launch vehicles, and so on. And going to the different orbits, like polar orbit or LEO, low Earth orbit, or planar orbit, or GTO, GSO, and also many kinds of satellite missions, like the satellites for communication purpose, meteorological purpose, navigation, and similarly for any kind of scientific applications. And also the deep space missions, like the one which is called the Chandrayaan-1 mission, which already has been accomplished in the year 2008, followed by Chandrayaan-2 in 2019, then the Mangalyaan mission, Mars orbiter mission in 2013. And now the ensuing Aditya mission also in the lineup. And also, as Chair has already said, that some of the key technologies which are needed for the human space program, which is way back in 2007 onwards, it started, demonstrating that particular technology. So with all these kinds of the background that we have, today India is poised to go for the real human space mission. And that is the reason why almost 3 years back in 2018, in August, the Honorable Prime Minister has announced about the human space program, Indian human space program, that is the Gaganyaan. There is a major objective being to take our own brothers or sisters from Indian soil in an Indian launch vehicle and in an Indian craft, go to the orbit at an altitude of around 400 kilometers, be there in the orbit for a couple of days, and then come back safely, land in the Indian territory. So this has been the major guideline that he has already announced in 2018, and he has also said about the deadline for this project, something like 2022 August, when we are celebrating the 75th independence anniversary. Of course, that deadline is over now. The reasons are very clear why we are not able to execute this particular mission so far. As already mentioned, the pandemic. The pandemic has spread its arms not only in India, across the world, and totally stagnating the work, stagnating the progress of the work, and delaying all the activities by more than a year and a half. So we are into the program with that kind of a delay, but that is not stopping us with whatever that achievement that we have done so far in the last couple of years. Maybe in the few slides which I have, I'll just narrate about. This is only like an intro to you about the human space program, because I think this is the first step of this session which has been convened here to talk about that. So what is all about the Indian human space program? It is to carry our own brothers and sisters today from India, and then in future we don't know. Anybody from elsewhere in the world also may queue up here to fly in our Gaganyaan. Anyway, that is the time it has to go to come once we complete that. So it is a mission as we see in the slide over here, and you take off in our own launcher, the launch vehicle, and then go to an orbit of 400 kilometers. The launcher or the launch vehicle is a rocket which takes the craft called the orbital module to an orbit of, it's about an elliptical orbit around the Earth, what you see over there, and then at a distance of 170 kilometers, that is called the perigee. That is the closest point with the Earth, and then the farthest point is 400 kilometers. This is an elliptical orbit. There the launcher will inject the orbital module, and subsequently the orbital module using its own propulsion device and takes the orbit to 400 kilometers circular. And once you reach the orbit at 400 kilometers circular, you be there for a couple of days. It could be 1 day, 2 days, or 3 days. Now the mission is designed for a maximum period of 3 days. And once you are there and once you are ready to come back, you deboost. Deboost means you reduce the velocity, because your orbital velocity is something like 7.5 kilometers per second. Just mind you that 7,500 meters per second, almost more than 25,000 kilometers per hour. At that speed you are traveling there, and then you have to deboost the velocity so that now you are under the gravitational force of the Earth, and then you are heading back towards the Earth. And that heading back should be very safe, because that is where the critical technology of the re-entry is very much important over there. And the crew module and the service module, which together is called the orbital module, when it comes from an altitude of 400 kilometers down to almost like 170 kilometers, the service module gets separated, and then that is discarded, while the crew module will head its way towards the home. And then we plan to, to land, not in the land, but then in the sea, somewhere near to the Indian Ocean. Well, near to the Indian territories, maybe on the eastern side of India, in the Bay of Bengal, or to the western side, depending upon the orbit in which you are undertaking the deboost mission. Can you go to the next one? Yeah, here it shows about now what is the major component of this particular mission. The central one is the launcher. Basically, this launcher is nothing different. It is the GSLV Mark III, which has already shown its might in 4 successful missions earlier. And this particular launcher also has done the 2019 Chandrayaan-2 mission very successfully. And this launcher is now getting converted from mere satellite launch vehicle into the human-rated launch vehicle. So for that human rating, basically when we talk about the human rating, always any mission, we talk about the reliability and quality. But then when it comes to human space, the third dimension comes into play, which is called the safety. So naturally, if you want to bring in safety into this mission, you need to make the rocket very rugged in terms of structural margins, in terms of thermal margins, in terms of the avionics, what you have and what not. So all these things have already been done for this rocket, and then all the systems have been qualified, and I can say that the first phase of qualification is completed, and the rocket systems are getting realized for really heading towards the mission. And on to the left side, you are seeing the orbital module, which is again, the forend is about the crew module. This is actually the Earth for the crew, because the crew is going to be inside. It could be 1, it could be 2, it could be maximum 3. And for them, the Earth is the crew, because once you are in the orbit, your crew module has to provide all the needed, the environment within the crew module. And similarly, the life support systems and so on. And at the aft end of the crew module, you see the service module. As the name suggests, it only does the servicing function like propulsion, avionics, power systems, apart from its own other systems which are part of like a satellite. And on the right side, you see the crew escape system. This is one of the most important component of the whole mission. See, any mission, when you make it, naturally you say that it is very reliable, maybe more than 99%. But still, you have always a doubt, because even in an aircraft also when we get in, always air hostess used to say that in case of an emergency, you have an emergency exit doors over there. And then if the craft is going to land in water, you have a water flotation system. Like in anything, even in automobiles, we have all those safety gears. Like that, a rocket which is much more complex than any of these machines, naturally, even if it is built to a high reliability, it needs that safety mechanism. Right from the time at which the astronauts or the Gaganauts, for that sake, when they board the vehicle, till they go to the orbit and till they land back safely, this crew escape system must be available. So this system, what you see on the right side, basically takes care of the total safety of the vehicle as long as it is crossing the atmosphere. And once it crosses the atmosphere, we have another kind of safety mechanism called an orbital module safety systems. What it does primarily is that once the vehicle systems are deviating from its path, immediately the vehicle has got its own intelligence through its launch vehicle management system, that is health management system, by which it will tell that I am not okay. Once I am not okay, then immediately the time will be set for abort. And then immediately the crew escape system, which is at the forend of the vehicle, will get jettisoned from the vehicle, and then it will take away the crew module along with the crew to a very safe distance. So that is the main function of the crew escape system, which also has been now tested, and then it is ready for executing certain abort missions. Now you see here, these are the precursor missions which we have already carried out, like the technologies which are needed for executing this human space mission. Way back in 2007, the spacecraft recovery experiment, wherein a spacecraft was taken to an orbit of 600 kilometers in a PSLV, Power Satellite Launch Vehicle, in 2007, and in January 2007, and then after a period of about 12 days, that particular body was maneuvered back, and then it landed in the eastern part of India, and that was called as an heavenly body. First time we are getting a body back from the orbit. So wherein we have proved the re-entry technology, especially with regard to the thermal protection systems. Similarly, in 2014, the CARE experiment, that is the crew module atmospheric re-entry experiment, wherein a similar size crew module, what we are now talking about, was taken to an altitude of 160 kilometers by the GSLV Mark III, which otherwise is called the Fat Boy, to an height of 160 kilometers, where it was deployed, and thereafter the CARE, the crew module, headed its way back to the Earth very safely. There again, we have proven the re-entry technology, the precise re-entry navigation, and precise injection and precise touchdown near the location where we predicted. Similarly, on the right side, you see the crew escape system, which I was just mentioning some time back. This also, through a demonstration of pad abort test, means that when you are in the launch pad, when the crew is entering the vehicle, maybe at T-minus 2 hours before the launch, and till T0, that is the time at which the launch takes place from the Sriharikota launch pad, during that time, something happens to the vehicle. Maybe a fire would have happened in the launch pad, and there is no time available for the crew to come out. Then immediately, he has to escape from the vehicle. And this particular demonstration has already been done in 2018, wherein a crew escape system was fired, and then it has taken the crew module to a distance of something like 3 kilometers from the pad and safely ejected the crew module over there. So these are the precursor technologies that we have already proven, but this is not enough. We have many more new technologies which has been summarized here. On the launcher, we said that it has been human rated, and then it has got a launch vehicle health management system, and intelligence is already sitting in the launch vehicle, which tells the launch vehicle that, or which tells that I am okay or not. Depending upon that, the crew escape system will be driven away from the crew module, from the launcher, and then heading the crew module to safety. Similarly, on the orbital module also, aerothermodynamics is very important. When you are coming back after the separation of the service module, the crew module, when it is making its way back to the Earth, it has to be very precisely maneuvered so that its aft end, that is called the dome, he is heading the aerodynamic flow. And then the powerful thermal protection system takes care of the crew module, maintaining the temperature inside to 23 plus minus 3 degrees, while the outside temperature is something like 2000 degrees. So that is very, very critical. And similarly, the end-to-end mission, because here the payload is none other than the crew members. And when you are there in the rocket, and as the rocket is climbing to the altitude, and when it is coming back, there are a lot of loads imparted to the crew, because the vehicle which it is moving is at a very high acceleration, something like 4G. 4G means if you are having a mass of weight of 60 kilogram, you will be feeling that you are having 60 into 4, 240 kilogram. Similarly, when you are coming back, also you will have a similar kind of, the loads which will be acting on your body. And forget about if there is an abort during the ascent phase, the kind of acceleration or the deceleration that is going to happen to you is something like 12G to 20G, means it is like a 60 kg man will feel like, or a 60 kg lady will feel like 1200 kg. Just imagine about that. You are carrying 1200 kg on your head. How do your bones and the other things will feel? So this is the kind of load that is going to act on the human, and our mission should be designed in such a way that all these loads should be well within the capability of the human. That is where it is called the physiological limit. We need to ensure that. So this is how the mission is also designed. And on the last segment is basically the crew life support system. As I mentioned earlier, the crew module is going to house the crew in the orbit. And then this crew module should have the atmosphere inside. The cabin pressure is very, very important, because there is no atmosphere outside. In the orbit, it is all vacuum, and outside temperatures are also like minus 150 degrees centigrade and 200 degrees centigrade. But inside, you need to maintain 23 plus minus 3 degrees with a cabin pressure of something like 100 kilopascal or 1 atmospheric pressure. This is all done by life support system, which is a new technology altogether, and all these things are being designed indigenously, of course, with the help of all our industrial partners. So these are all very few critical technologies I have mentioned. Otherwise, if I need to talk about it, I need more time. So we will just see how this mission we are going to achieve that. Is it that ISRO is going to do that? As Chair has already said, it is the program across the nation that is called the Pan-India. Not only Pan-India, it is also spread across the world. We have the national collaboration, we have the international collaboration. You see on the left side, the national collaboration, all the institutions are there, all the academy is there, whether the IITs, IIScs, IIMs, all those people are there. Similarly, hundreds of industries are participating in our program, something like 300 to 400 industries. And all those armed forces are there, Indian Army, Indian Air Force, and Navy, Indian Coast Guard. And similarly, all the DRDO, the various kinds of DRDO units are there. Of course, a couple of expert panel members are also available over here. So similarly, on the international collaboration also, we have with the JSC, Glavcosmos, Russia, and also with the Australian Space Agency over here. Anyway, one panelist is also here, where we are seeking the support of, the tracking the launch vehicle when it is ascending. We need a place to keep our transportable terminal, so that we have found a place called something called Cocos Island, which is actually belonging to the Australian government. Already we have a collaboration with them, and similarly with the European Space Agency, Amazon Web Services, and whatnot. So it is something like a national and international collaboration with which we are going forward for achieving this human space mission. And coming to the last, you just see how we are going to achieve this. Probably this, as already mentioned, See, to validate all these things are very important. As I mentioned, crew safety is the most important thing. Anything you do, just like that, will not get accepted. We have got a certification board sitting over there. So they will ask, in fact, what are the various demonstration and the crew safety related tests that you have performed. And we need to show it by record, not by just talking. So we carry out all these things through very exhaustive ground tests and also through a low-cost test vehicle missions. That is what already it has been told, that, you know, the crew safety during the ascent phase, if at all something happens to the vehicle, at any point in time, if something happens to the vehicle, you need to jettison from there and you need to come back safely. How you are going to demonstrate that? That is going to be demonstrated through a low-cost test vehicle mission, where we will have multiple missions like that, where we will simulate very critical mission conditions, and then we will jettison the crew escape system and take the crew module to safety. This also we need to demonstrate. And before we heading towards the manned mission, you know, we need to carry out 2 identical unmanned missions without man. And it has to be identical in all respects, with respect to the launcher, with respect to the orbital module, with respect to the crew escape system, with respect to all the ground paraphernalia which is required for the communications, and all other things have to be like a manned mission. Only thing, man will not be there, but then there will be some other payloads. So once you do that, yes, you are ready for taking a man. So that time is not far off. It is going to come soon. We are going to have test vehicle missions in a couple of months, followed by unmanned mission probably in the end of next year, which will be followed by another couple of unmanned missions, and then the manned mission. So we will wait until then. Maybe with all these collaborations, what we have with all the industries, the startups. In fact, I forgot to tell about one startup company who are making the green propulsion system. It's very nice, that start over there. Only thing they have to optimize with regard to the catalyst test, bed, what they are making. The power that is consuming is slightly is on the higher side. That they need to cut it down. In that case, you know, we can always find it useful for the Gaganyaan mission. There are many startups are also coming forward to give certain products for the Gaganyaan mission. So I think the time is up, and then we are ready. We will be ready for this Gaganyaan mission in a couple of years from now, and we will soon be boarding our own Indian brother or sister to take them to an orbit and then safely bring them back. Probably after that, we will have people from abroad also wanting to go in our Gaganyaan mission. Thank you very much.